And welcome into the weekend recap here on Panther-Lair.com, the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. I'm Chris Peak from Panther-Lair.com, bringing you everything you need to know from the weekend. You know, we started doing this a couple weeks ago, a Monday morning video to break down everything that happened over the weekend, everything you need to know as you start the new week. When you go into work, you're around the water cooler, or you're on the morning Zoom, and you want to impress all your friends with your knowledge of Pitt sports information and happenings and goings on, this is the place to get all that information. We're going to make you sound smart when you go into the office here on a Monday morning. We do it every week. Release this video for who knows how long it is, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It depends on how much happened. We take as much time as we need because we're not restricted by any kind of hard breaks to get to the commercial or anything like that. We take as much time as we need to break down all the Pitt recruiting info or Pitt basketball info or football info or anything that happened over the weekend in Pitt sports. We do it all on Panther-Lair.com, of course, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. But we also have this little video here that sort of condenses it all down, sort of, shoots it right in there for you and, brings you up to speed. So make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you always know when we have a new video that comes out so you never miss anything. YouTube.com/Panther-Lair.com. You're watching this video, you probably see an icon right around somewhere. I'm trying to point to it. The little subscribe button. Just click that subscribe button. That's big for us. It helps us get the word out. It helps spread the word about the YouTube channel and the content that we're putting out, and it helps us reach more people, which is always the goal, to spread the word as much as we can. So like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you will never you'll never miss a thing. You don't want to miss anything. And definitely this past weekend, there was plenty going on. And, if you missed anything, that's why we're here to bring you up to speed. It was the second official visit weekend of June for the Pitt coaches. They did it 2 weeks ago at the beginning of June. Had their first official visit weekend. They took off last weekend, and now this past weekend, they brought recruits to campus again. Another Thursday to Saturday visit, kind of lined up that first week. They did visits Thursday to Saturday, June 2nd through June 4th. Typically, official visits are going to be your Friday to Sunday deal. But the coaches set up that first one to go the 2nd through the 4th so that on Sunday, the 5th, they could hold a prospect camp. They didn't want to have overlap where they're trying to wrap up the official visits while at the same time they're trying to get ready for the prospect camps and coach that up. They wanted a little bit of separation there. They wanted some space between the two. So the official visits ran Thursday to Saturday, and then the camp was on Sunday. And they did the same thing this week as well, where they went official visits Thursday to Saturday, and then they had a prospect camp yesterday on Sunday. Now, I also think to some extent they wanted to wrap the official visits up and not bleed into Father's Day, is what I initially thought when I saw the schedule for the official visits, that, they're going Thursday to Saturday. But I think it was probably more about not overlapping with the prospect camp so they could give the official visits the full attention that they deserve and that they need, as a major, crucial part of the recruiting process, but then also give the prospect camps all the attention that they need and deserve. Not necessarily a lot of top targets at the prospect camps, but these are all kids who paid some money to come and work out with your coaches and learn and get better. They deserve your full, undivided attention and focus and energy. And so you didn't want to have, a coach late to the field because he's dealing with, he's wrapping up official visits. You want to be able to be focused completely on the prospect camps. So they had the little separation there. Next week, they'll have one more official visit weekend. That's going to be a traditional Friday to Saturday deal. That'll be the final official visit weekend of the month of June. And that, like I said, that'll be a Friday to Saturday. It's not quite the same sort of deal. They have their passing camp Friday to Sunday. They have their passing camp on Sunday, but I don't think there'll be much interference there, not the way that the prospect camps are. So, second big official visit weekend. They had 12 recruits on campus, 4 official visits, 5 of them committed. So far, as of, we're taping this video on Sunday night, so far 3 of those 5 have announced. We're pretty sure, with very, very strong confidence that we know who all 5 are. We've talked about it on the message boards. That is going to be the premium info on Panther-Lair.com. If you've gone to the Panther-Lair.com message boards, you know who those 5 are. But we can talk about the 3 who are already out. And that's Rasheem Biles, a linebacker prospect from Ohio, big, long, could be a safety, going to play outside linebacker, that star linebacker position. He's in. Montravius Lloyd, running back out of Florida, out of the Gulf Coast area, Tampa area, Lakeland, I guess. I think he's more like Tampa. He committed. And then Braylon Lovelace, a linebacker from Leechburg, actually, who got his offer from Pitt at a prospect camp earlier this month, made his official visit and decided to commit. He had planned to take an official visit to Virginia Tech next weekend. I think that's off, and he is all in. Similarly, Rasheem Biles had an official visit scheduled to West Virginia for next weekend, and that has been canceled. He's all in with Pitt, or at least as all in as anyone can be at this point in the recruiting process. 2 other commitments, like I say, not announced yet by the recruits. We've put plenty of info on Panther-Lair.com. I think if you have been reading our message boards at Panther-Lair.com, the premium message boards, you won't have any surprises when those commitments are announced. But the big picture, without getting into those 2 guys specifically, the big picture is that in 2 official visit weekends, Pitt has now landed 11 commitments. They have 13 total in the class right now, and 11 of them have come from the 2 June official visit weekends. They came into the month with Zion Fowler and Kenny Minchie already committed, the receiver and quarterback respectively, and they've since added 11 guys to go with that. Par for the course. That's what we expected June to be, and that's what June has turned out to be. It's been a month of landing a lot of official visitors. And, if you look at 2 official visit weekends, 26 recruits total, 11 new commitments plus the 2, plus Minchie and Fowler. So you're looking at 13 out of 26 guys, 50% so far. And out of those other 13, the guys that they haven't gotten, some of them maybe are not necessarily takes, to use the parlance of our times right now. They're not necessarily guys who could commit to Pitt right now. Guys who, if they called up the coaches and said, I want to commit, the coaches would say, well, we got to wait on that. We got to check and make sure we have enough spots for you. We have to make sure we're not filled up. Or in some cases, we are filled up at your position. So it's not all 13 of them they're still waiting on. It's only a group of that 13 that Pitt is still considering and could potentially take. A few of those guys are still taking other visits. A few of those guys, they might not really have a chance to land. So it's a mixed bag. The final tally is not in yet on those other 13 recruits. Or I guess I should say the final tally is not in yet on how Pitt did on these official visit weekends, beginning 11 commitments out of the 2 weekends so far with 1 more visit weekend looming. That's a pretty good spot. And I think the guys they got this weekend, again, like the first weekend, were some priority targets. And not just sort of grabbing low-hanging fruit. Guys, there's a lot of guys in here that they've gotten commitments from, the 5 this weekend, the 6 the first weekend, who, a lot of guys who had good offers, a lot of guys who had other official visit plans, and a lot of guys who were looking at programs throughout the Power 5. And Pitt ended up, convincing them to, for the most part, shut down their recruitment. Shelton Lewis, the defensive back from Georgia, being one exception. He has continued to take official visits after committing to Pitt. But they've convinced these guys to shut down their recruitment. They've convinced these guys to commit to Pitt. And that's a testament to the coaches. It's a testament to the recruiting staff. And it's a testament to the job that all these guys do on the official visits. And so that's pretty good. I would say it's a pretty good weekend for Pitt. I think they added to the class. They made the class stronger. Class climbed back into the top 30 just with the 3 commitments that we know of already with Biles and Lloyd and Lovelace. The class climbed back into the top 30 in the national recruiting rankings. They had slipped down to 32 or something like that. They're back up to 26 as of Sunday night. I think if these other 2 commitments get announced at some point in the near future, that'll help bump those numbers up as well. Class is more or less on track for what I expected it to be. We'll get to the state of the class in a moment, though. Point number 2 up here on our, can't really line up my finger. There we go. All the linebackers. I mentioned Rasheem Biles from Ohio. He's a linebacker prospect. I mentioned Braylon Lovelace from Pennsylvania, Leechburg. He's another linebacker prospect. And I think one of the 2 unnamed commitments thus far is another linebacker, which very well might fill their linebacker spots in this class. And that's been a real subject of discussion on the message boards because next weekend's official visits, at least the latest that we confirmed, and I think some things are going to change over the next few days, next weekend's official visits have some really good linebackers scheduled to come to Pitt. And I think there are going to be a few changes on that official visit list. I don't think all those guys are going to end up making those visits either by their choice or by Pitt's. And I think there's a real chance that Pitt may, for the time being, have filled its linebacker spots in the class of 2023. Now, the thing that you have to understand, and I say this over and over and over again, and I've been saying it for 17 years, well, probably 15 years, 16 years. It took me a little while to understand it. Recruiting is always in motion. Recruiting is always changing. On the coach's side, on the player's side, and even in between. It's always in flux. Okay, until the letter of intent is signed, until the guys are on campus, until they're playing with the team, it's always in flux. And so the coaches may say right now, we want to take 3 linebackers, and they may wake up Monday morning and go in for their staff meeting and say, hey, let's take 5. And all of a sudden there are more spots available. But I think coming out of this weekend, 3 might be the number for now. And they could stand to use a big linebacker class. I mean, honestly, I think they could probably take 4 or 5 linebackers in this class. Seems like a crazy number. But when you look at how the scholarship board is laid out, about how the roster is projected right now, they're very top heavy. Most of their linebackers are juniors and seniors. Now, a lot of those guys are going to, even the seniors have another year after this due to the COVID super senior year. The juniors all have 2 more years. They have next season and the next year. So you're not going to run out of guys in 2023. It's not like you're going to go into 2023 or 2024 and have no one left to play linebacker. But you are going to need to restock the numbers at some point. And so I think this could be a class where they do it. It's looking like it's going to be a very big class. We'll get to the state of the class in a moment. But it's looking like it's going to be a pretty big class, and I think you should have the room to take 4 or 5 linebackers if you have good players who want to come here. For now, the staff might be content to sit at 3. We'll see what happens going forward. Like I say, that official visit list for next weekend, which already has, I think, 4 linebackers on it. At one point, 4 linebackers who at some point said they were coming to Pitt for an official visit the weekend of June 24th to the 26th. And I think a couple of those guys are really good players who could be at or near the top of Pitt's board. But if the spots are full, the spots are full. And it's sort of the recruiting game, the push and pull of, okay, do we hold off this guy because we think we can get that guy? Do we take this guy because we know we're not going to get that guy? Do we take this guy to sort of nudge this guy to get him as well so we can fill up those spots? It really is a game, and there's strategy, there's feel, there's finesse. You have to have a sense of where guys are leaning, and we see it play out every year in multiple positions, and it's sort of the fun thing to watch. And you kind of wish you could hear those conversations behind closed doors, because I think the conversations between the coaches and the prospects on these visits could be pretty interesting at times. So we'll see what happens with the linebackers. And like I say, next weekend's official visit list is going to tell us a whole lot about what the staff thinks about their current crop of linebackers and whether the current commits are enough to fill the available spots in the class for that position. Number 3, state of the class. Like I said, as of Sunday night, the class is ranked number 26 nationally, and that's with 11 commitments, 11 players who have announced their commitments to Pitt, 2 outstanding commitments, or unnamed or unannounced commitments so far that'll bump that number up to 13. I think if those guys were to announce right now and we put them on the list, that would bump the class recruiting ranking up into the top 25 and closer to 20 or 21, I would think. But that's all going to be, I talk about being in flux. That's going to be moving back and forth and back and forth. Pitt right now is going to be at, they're at 11. They're going to be at 13 commitments at some point in the near future. Other school, and that's going to bump them up. And then other schools are going to get a bunch of commitments and bump back ahead. Cincinnati is like a top 5 recruiting class right now because they have like 48 commitments or something. Some of it is volume based. Not all of it, but some of it. Quantity does have an impact on the recruiting rankings, and things will eventually balance out. But the state of the class so far, I think they've laid a lot of the foundation. I think they've even gotten close to closing up a couple of positions. You know what I mean? Quarterback is obviously, that's locked up. They've got their one quarterback. Running back with Montrevious Lloyd, I think he goes by Trey Lloyd, I wouldn't be surprised if they try to get a second running back in the class to go with Lloyd. You know, they had Javius Bond visited on the first official visit weekend. I think they're going to keep trying to work there. And I wouldn't be surprised if they try and get another running back to go with him. They've got 2, maybe 3 wide receiver commitments. That might be it, barring, some of these guys. There's a 5-star wide receiver coming for his official visit next weekend. At least as of Sunday night, that has not been, that still seems to be in place. That Hakeem Williams is coming to Pitt. We haven't seen anything change there. You're going to take him no matter what. You might hit your quota of wide receivers, but and Hakeem Williams might put you over that quota. That's fine. You'll do it. Tight end, they still need to get a tight end. Offensive linemen, they need offensive linemen. They need a bunch of offensive linemen in this class. I could see a big class of linemen, 4 or 5 guys potentially. And there are a bunch coming in on this final visit weekend. There were a couple that came in this past weekend, and one or two on the first weekend as well. You flip over, I think they're building the defensive line fine. I don't think they need a giant defensive line class. Linebacker we just talked about, and then defensive back, they've got 3 DBs committed, and that includes Shelton Lewis, who, like I said, is taking visits to some other schools. I don't really know how much they're going to push for too many more guys. I think they'll try and... I could see them settling with 4 defensive backs in this class, and just signing 4 and being set with it. So that's kind of, if you look at them having 13 commitments right now, I think I can easily find, 10 to 12 more positions and spots that need to be filled in. If you talk about a running back, 4 or 5 offensive linemen, a couple more DBs. You're gonna, or a couple, maybe one or two more D linemen, 1 or 2 more DBs. You can fill in those spots without working too hard to get up above 20, 20, 22, 23 commitments. So they should have the scholarship space available to take a bigger class this year, and they've certainly got the positions that I think could use an influx of talent and depth on the roster. So I like where this class is at so far. I think they've certainly got plenty more work to do, and I think they've laid some good groundwork, some good foundation with targets to fill some of those spots. With some of the guys who have already visited this month and some of the guys they're still talking to. Number 4. There it is. Sibo Flemister. Grad transfer, or I forget if he's a grad transfer from Notre Dame. Running back. Visited Pitt, I think 2 weeks ago. Visited around the same time as Derek Kyler, the quarterback from Dartmouth who ended up committing to Pitt. Well, finally on Sunday, Sibo announced that he is going to go to Pitt as well. And this is one of the more curious commitments, and I think we talked about it on Wednesday night, because I think he committed on Wednesday. Pat Narduzzi sent out his Pitt is it tweet on Wednesday night, or on Wednesday during the day, and by Wednesday night, by the time we got to the live show, the live Panther-Lair show, I think we pretty much knew that it was him. We talked about it as such. We didn't say it definitively, but we said, pretty sure it's this guy. Assuming that it is, here's what we think. And what I thought then is what I thought now. It's what I thought when they brought him in for the official visit 2 weeks ago. It adds depth. And it's a situation where Pitt had open scholarship spots. So you might as well do something with it. Did they need another quarterback in Derek Kyler, the transfer from Dartmouth? Probably not, but it's good to have a good, reliable, experienced third quarterback. Did they need a 5th running back, behind Izzy Abanikanda and Rodney Hammond and Vincent Davis and Daniel Carter? Probably not. But it's not a bad thing to have a guy who's played a bunch of football at Notre Dame. He had 100 and some carries in his career at Notre Dame, scored 10 touchdowns. It's not a bad thing. You've got the open scholarship spots. So if you have a player who you feel like can help you, then you take him. Even if you're not bringing him in to be... So they brought in Konate Mumfield to be the man. You know what I mean? They brought in Lucas Krull 2 years ago to be the man. They brought in Shane Simon this year to play a lot. They have high expectations for these guys. I think Bub Means is going to play a lot. But they also brought in Tyler Wiltz. Not to be a starting linebacker, to be a depth linebacker. A second team or maybe even third team. A guy who just fills in the depth a little bit more. And gives you a little more, protection in case you run into trouble. Just like Derek Kyler gives you a little more protection in case you run into trouble. Just like Sibo Flemister gives you a little more insurance if you run into trouble. If you're down 2 backs, right? Now your third running back is a guy who played at Notre Dame. That's not a bad spot to be. I don't think you're bringing him in expecting him to be your number 1 running back, because you've got a couple of number 1 running backs already. And you've got, a senior who's played a ton of football here and I think is very reliable in a certain type of role. And you've got a guy who is the most improved player of the spring on offense in Daniel Carter. So, you've got, I think, a really strong running back room. And you just made it stronger by bringing in an experienced transfer who uses one of your scholarship spots. And you had them. You had those open scholarships. You might as well use them on someone who can help you. And then the final one, wrapping up the camps. Like I mentioned, the prospect camps earlier. Pitt held 4 over the course of the last 3 weeks. They had one on June 5th. They had 2 last weekend, the 11th and the 12th, and then one here on Sunday, June 19th. I think across all 4 camps, you're looking at probably close to maybe a little more than about 1,500 kids came through the South Side. That's kind of my rough math. I think they had about 500 and some the first week. On Sunday, the 5th. I think on Saturday, the 11th, they had about 600. And then these last 2 camps, last Sunday, the 12th, and then yesterday, the 19th, they had about 150 at each of those. So whatever the math ends up, 1,500, somewhere around there. It's a ton of kids. And obviously not all of those guys are Power 5 players. Not all of those guys are FBS players. Not all of those guys are FCS players. You might get down to guys who are not even D2 or D3 players, not college football players. But what they are is high school players who wanted to get a little bit better, who wanted to spend an afternoon getting coached by college coaches, getting coached by college players, and maybe come out of it a little bit better than they were before. To have something, a little bit, some extra tips, some extra instruction, some extra skills to take back to their team and help their team win in the fall. And not just that, but they also got to spend the afternoon around the ACC champs. And I really think I think that was a factor in why the numbers were so large. I've never seen camps with 600 kids. Pitt has not had camps with 600 kids. Last year they had a camp or 2 with 400, and I thought it was crazy. Well, now we have 500 and 600 kid camps. And I think part of it is Pitt is more appealing right now. Pitt is more relevant right now. Pitt is more prominent right now. And I've talked about this before, and I still believe it to be the case. And I think that's why they were able to draw the big numbers that they were. Like, yeah, I want to go to Pitt's camp. Whether they know or not that they're not going to get an offer, they still wanted to go. They wanted to be around the program, and they wanted to be around the coaches who won an ACC, and be around the players who won an ACC championship. Because the players are involved too. A lot of the players are out there coaching. Keaton Slovis is out there, and Vincent Davis is out there. Pablo Baldonado and Kalijah Cansey and John Morgan were out there all the time. Servassier Dennis was out there at every camp. Jared Wayne was out there working with the coaches and helping to serve as sort of extra coaches out there. And these kids wanted to be around that. And so for all the things we talk about, all the positive things that I think you should be feeling about Pitt football right now, things you should be encouraging, I think this is one as well. Because I think it speaks to the prominence of the program, the appeal of the program, and sort of where Pitt is positioned right now as a destination program. And they're not in that top tier, we're not saying that. But in terms of ascension, you look for those sort of extra signs. You got your win-loss record. You got your conference championship. You got your appearance on a New Year's Day Six Bowl. But there are a lot of sort of ancillary things that you kind of notice and say, that's sort of a best way to put it. That's connected to the success. That's another offshoot of the success. That's something else that has been lifted up from the success. So, all in all, pretty I think a productive series of camps for Pitt. Like I say, they had a lot of kids there. But they also they found some offer candidates. They just offered a 2024 quarterback from Florida on Sunday, a kid who works with Rod Rutherford of all people as his trainer, and so that was a pretty interesting connection. But they had found a bunch of new offensive line offers, which is kind of interesting. I never really know how those guys will pan out when you offer them based off of a non-pad camp, but Dave Borbley worked him out in person, and he liked what he saw and moved forward with a scholarship offer. So Overall, I think a productive month of camps so far. I think a productive 2 weekends of official visits. And yeah, we'll head toward the next weekend. Another big official visit weekend coming up. Like I say, I think there's going to be some changes to the list. I actually think in the midst of taping this, I got a text message indicating that one of those visits we were counting on is now off the table. So going to have to post that on the message boards. By the time you watch this video, you will have already read on the message boards about the official visit change. So I apologize, but I wasn't going to stop recording and start all over with that news. We'll just have to give you a little teaser. Drive the traffic back to the message boards for sure. Make sure you like and subscribe, to our YouTube channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Like this video, we really appreciate it. I like doing this. I like bringing everything up to speed, sort of setting the conversation for the week, and we'll see what unfolds this week. Make sure to stay tuned to Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. We'll have all the latest news on Pitt football, basketball, recruiting, and all of that. Wrestling recruiting, we got some wrestling stuff coming up from our guy Eric Knopsnyder. Had some great stuff on two new commitments for Keith Gavin. So make sure you check that out. Like I say, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Thanks so much for checking this out. Special programming note, we'll have a live Panther-Lair show on Tuesday night instead of Wednesday. We're moving it back a day. Tuesday night, live Panther-Lair show. So check in for that. I think it's going to be Tuesday. Keep an eye on Twitter and whatnot. We might move it to Thursday, but it's not going to be Wednesday. So we'll say that. It's not going to be Wednesday. Thanks so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoy these videos that we do. Like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you will never miss one of these videos when we release them. Thanks again. Have a great week, and we will talk to you this week for the live Panther-Lair show. Thanks.